Hello, my name is Cole Spector. Welcome to episode 2.1 of this 3-part Lainey and Ben special. And this is 100% proof that Lainey and Ben are faking fake emails, doxing me, committing a criminal offence from my perspective, and risking so much more than they realise. Now, I've had to re-record this video several times. I think this is the 4th time. The reason for that is it's not because I'm taking things out or being careful about what I say, because, like I said, from my perspective, it looks like they're committing a criminal offence, and I've got reasoning and proof to point to that. So, as much as anyone can argue this, they can send me legal letters, whatever they like, it makes no difference, right? This is from my perspective, and there's no change in that at all without significant evidence to prove otherwise. Right, the reason why I recorded it so many times is because it gets dumber every time I look into this. Seriously. Not only that though, it's disgusting what you're doing. Right? A debunker releases a video that exposes your manipulation, your lies to your subs, and your response to that is to attempt to destroy their lives, their reputation. I live off my name and my reputation, so you're going to find out very quickly that this is not the right course of action to take. Okay, maybe rethink your career on YouTube, because if you're asking why do they have a right to expose us, because someone has to. Alright, and if you're not doing anything wrong, you wouldn't mind debunkers making videos exposing you. Okay, you won't play these dirty little games on people. But I want every fake channel, every top 5 channel or reaction channel, I want everyone to know this, right? That I will take each and every single one of you apart for attacking debunkers. Okay? For stepping up, sticking their neck out on the line to expose people who are manipulating vulnerable people. And if you want to see a good example of why they do what they do, you only have to go to a channel called Beardo. He recently did a video, I think it's the video where he talks about Lee losing it. And that guy, he had somebody commenting on his video, and I'm not going to tell you what her name was or the comment. I want you to go over to his channel and watch that video, alright, and listen to her comment and her story, because that is by far the worst example of this that I've heard, and I'm sure there's more, that this is just the surface. And if you attack any of these debunking channels that are trying to help these people, trying to expose these people pretending to be paranormal channels, debunkers don't attack the paranormal, right? Some of us, me included, I have paranormal beliefs myself, right? We attack the ones that are faking being paranormal channels. And when I say you're risking so much more, and I absolutely mean that, and I've been through this, where if you go to court for anything, so you go to court for because you've been accused of something, you go to court because you're accusing somebody of something, right? Or you're going to court for a claim, which is the more common thing, that you know, if it were a huge claim, you go to court and you give a witness statement, your sort of recollection of the events, right? The defendant's solicitor or the prosecutor, whoever's on the opposite side of you, their solicitor will comb through your life, literally, with a magnifying glass, with a electron microscope. Go through your entire life. Digitally, they'll even get people to follow you around if they need to prove a point. They will go through everything, right? And if they find one thing that proves that you were dishonest, they will parade that in front of the judge or jury, and to make your witness statement credible. And it doesn't matter if you're in court for a good reason, you know, you're innocent, and or you've been accused of a crime and you're innocent. It doesn't matter. See, the opposition, they're not looking for the truth. they're looking to win for their client based on the information at hand. All right, so that they, even if you had a moral point that you were right or you didn't break the law, the opposing team solicitor is not going to turn around and go, yeah, you're absolutely right, you didn't break the law. They are going to look for any angle they can to continue and prosecute you or have your case thrown out of court, because that's how it works. And I'm not saying that the solicitors are dishonest people, because they're not. And there's some amazing solicitors. Seriously, I just wish I could afford them, because I can't. So I have to do all this kind of thing myself. I can't, you know, I'm a single dad. I've got 2 kids. I can't afford to do this. All reason why I'm annoyed at being doxxed. My ex-wife, misled. She tricked me into moving house. I lost. So a long time ago, I was married. After I left the military and nearly losing my leg, and I collapsed long, I was in a coma. Things started getting better, and I got married, had 2 children, and I even started working for the NHS, the National Health Service, as a senior technician, and everything was looking up. I worked for them for about 5 years, and everything was really looking up for me. I had a great job. I loved it. I didn't need any kind of experience for that job, or it was just kind of my work in the military just had me switched on enough to be able to do that job and to adapt to that work. So I got that job. They took a chance on me, and it was a fantastic job. I was on call getting theatre instruments ready for road traffic accident victims who needed the legs pinning. So I get all the titanium plates and screws ready for the surgeon to put in. Right, so, and everything was going great, and then a piece of metal left out, ripped open my scar tissue, and it tagged my bone. I don't know exactly what it did, but it did something to my bone, and it got infected really badly. And because of all the scar tissue from when I was injured in the military, it just opened up. It swole up. My leg just literally opened up like a bloody piñata, a very gory piñata. It got infected, and it got progressively worse. And because of the scar tissue and everything, it was just so unpredictable, and any infection that it got in it was so hard to remove. Right, later on we found out that there were loads of bits of metal in my leg from when I was injured, and bits and pieces and debris. And that's what the infection was basically living inside, or living on top of the surface of, and the body couldn't clean it out. So again, I was faced with losing my leg. NHS couldn't keep me on, so I lost my job within the NHS, and then I was about to lose my leg. So I lost my job, nearly lost my leg, or was told, you know, it was time to think about amputation. I was in a lot of pain, serious amount of pain, so I was taking morphine and all sorts of other painkillers and nerve painkillers. And out of nowhere, my ex-wife wanted to move house, so I agreed to it. I was in a bad state, but moving the boxes over anyway. All the big furniture was handled by a moving team. On the last day, when we were due to hand the keys back, she told me she didn't know how she felt about me anymore and needed some space. And up to that point, I thought I'd done everything. Even when I were, you know, really badly ill with my leg in the infections and things, I never once shirked my responsibilities as a father, or and I always thought that I tried to be a good husband. So nothing, this all came out of nowhere. I had no idea that there was anything wrong in our relationship, but I said, well, as long as it's got nothing to, as long as you can promise me it's got nothing to do with another man, I'll give you as much space as you need. And she swore that it had nothing to do with another man. But I was so, I'd got no house. I felt too humiliated, so I couldn't ask my family for help. So I ended up living in a car park for a while. Just kind of, well, I wouldn't even call it living. I was just kind of sat in a car park, staring out of the window, because I was just so stunned. I was like a rabbit in headlights. The very next morning, so the first night I slept in that car park, the very next morning I went to my ex-wife's new house that I just helped to move her into, to furnish, to pay for the deposit and everything. I went to my ex-wife's new house to take my daughter to school. And my daughter comes to the doorstep. She thinks that I've been at work all night or something. I'm just taking her to school. My ex-wife forgot a PE kit, so she went back inside. My daughter, on the doorstep, turned around to me and said, "Oh, Daddy, I had a bad dream last night, and I came downstairs looking for you, and I couldn't find you. But another man was there." Right then and there, I knew what all this were about, and I was so gutted, absolutely gutted, that I'd been made such a fool of, like, in that way, and that I'd been misled. And don't get me wrong, she was an absolute artist in manipulation. She still is, but I just, I know how to deal with her more efficiently now. I got back to the car park that night, and I actually bought a hose pipe on the way home, and I didn't even think about this. I just bought a hose pipe and some tape, like it were a natural progressing event that needed to happen, that I needed to self-delete. And I'd even got to the point where I opened the car door and I got one foot out onto the ground, and I had the hose pipe under my arm with the roller tape in my hand, and I'd opened the sort of car door, got my foot down on the floor, and I stopped right then and there, and the craziest thing happened to me. And that's just something for another day, but the craziest thing happened to me, and it kind of shocked me out of that frame of, it was nothing paranormal, it was just something weird, and something very British happened, and it kind of knocked me out of that frame of mind just for a second, but it gave me a moment of clarity, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Because when you're in so much pain, and or you're so depressed or facing so much grief, it completely takes over your mind, and it's not like you can have a rational thought or think about it rationally what you're doing. It just kind of makes sense, and like it's something that needs to happen. So I asked my mother for help for that point, right? She helped me figuratively and literally get back on my feet, and that's when I started learning photography and all this sort of thing. But because this manipulation, it didn't end there. There were so many events, so many sickening things that she did to me, that I just hated being who I used to be. I hated how I was being treated, because she knew she could do anything she liked to me, because I would never hit a woman. And people say that as if it's like, I would never hit a woman, like it's a moral thing, but you never ever disclose that to anyone, because they will absolutely, once they know they've got that, they'll just keep pushing you as far as they can, because they know that you won't do anything. And at the time, everything about me was physical. I did cage fighting and things. That's how I knew how to answer to problems, with my fists. And it was just like being totally immobilized, and just I had to sort of be the victim of a manipulation, and it made me really angry, always angry, constantly angry, not thinking rationally, letting people wind me up and get really angry and emotional over things. So I carried on. I got past her, and I met another person, and we started getting it really sort of into each other, and we got close. And one day she collapsed, and it was during that time that I did research for my degree, and I found out all this cool stuff about my hometown, and I proved one of the most famous political writers in the world, George Orwell. I proved he was wrong about something that he said about my hometown, and I was so proud of that. And I went to the newspapers to show them my research, and because I was so naive at the time, and because I didn't realise that it would be digging up an article the newspaper attacked George Orwell with all them years ago. They did everything they could to make me sound a total idiot. So they attributed quotes made by me, and then, you know, it's nothing disgusting, nothing illegal, but it just totally invalidates my research and makes me look like an idiot. So all the academic people who, all the political analysts and things like that, anyone who sort of knows who George Orwell is, and I thought I was being such a smart ass because I proved him wrong. I'm a big fan of his, by the way, so, you know, it's not that I think he's wrong about stuff, it's just I was getting really cocky because I'm like, I proved that George Orwell was wrong. They absolutely trashed me in the newspaper, in a newspaper article, with all this research, and, you know, the stupid thing is I could see it coming a mile off, right? But they did it to protect their interests. So at the time, though, because I brought so much down on the university, or so much potentially down on the university, they could have asked me to leave, and then that would have been 3 years down wasted, because I would have had to have gone to another university if they'd have let me in, because of the trouble I caused with the newspaper, and it would have caused a lot of grief for me. It would have at least put my career back 2 years. So at the time, me and my brother, I'm the last of my brothers to change my name, and it's this thing to do with our family and our biological father. So I never cared about it. I just whatever, because I was too young to know how much of a dirtbag he was. So I heard all the stories, but, you know, I had no emotional attachment to him, so it didn't really bother me that much. But I was talking to the woman I was seeing about changing my name, and I'd already changed it all on social media and everything like that. I'd already changed my name there and changed my sort of like Cole Thompson design and photography and things like that. And I was telling her all the reasons why and things like that, and she understood, and we got on really well. But during the national emergency time, she started to develop a really bad chest, and they kept telling her, oh, it's the obvious one that's you've got, so stay at home, and you know, don't go out and mix with people, blah blah blah. But it wasn't right. She collapsed, bleeding from the mouth, a few weeks later, and it turned out when she got to hospital and that, she's riddled with cancer everywhere. Basically, she was past the point of no return, so it was basically a death sentence, that. And she refused to let me see her because we weren't that close. She refused to let me see her, so because, you know, I wasn't a family member or next to kin, I couldn't go and see her in hospital. Well, she was in hospital for a while, and then they shoved her in a hospice to basically die, and I couldn't go and see her. So we were communicating via WhatsApp, and just sort of messaging each other, leaving each other voicemails. And it got to the point where she, obviously, we weren't madly in love or anything like that, and it got to the point where she didn't want to hurt me, so she wanted to keep a distance from me. But, you know, after a couple of days, I had to message her and talk to her. I didn't care that, you know, well, obviously I cared that she was going to die, but I didn't care that I had to be a part of that. I just wanted to be a part of whatever time she had left, because I really liked her. And so she was calling me Cole at the time, and we were having these messages back and forth. But if anyone's ever had anyone in that sort of position, who's been dying in a hospice or a hospital, whatever they're dying from, it slowly takes them over, to the point where they become less of the person you knew before they became ill. And I saw that happen with my stepdad, and it were happening with this lady. And she became less and less of the person that I had grown really fond of. And I was gutted that she was slipping away from me. I would, you know, it's such a painful thing to have it dragged out like that. And she had a 7-year-old daughter, I felt so bad. I just felt so much guilt for that daughter, and I don't know why. I just, you know, she's obviously gone to her dad, but I've heard stories about the father, and you know, I don't doubt for a minute he wouldn't step up to the plate and be a good dad. So you know, I'm not saying that she went to a bad home or anything like that. I'm just saying the things that he did to her in the relationship, he did to the mother in the relationship, there weren't anything as bad as what happened to my mother or what my ex-wife did to me, but you know, it's just bad enough kind of thing. So I kind of felt sorry for a daughter terribly, even though, you know, it wasn't my responsibility, and I didn't really even know a daughter either. So, you know, because we were just like at that phase getting to know each other, and not at the phase of thinking about the future together. So I didn't really know her that well, but then when she were finally getting to the last few days, she messaged me saying that she wasn't going to message me back anymore because she didn't want to just leave it, and then, you know, something happened and then not speak again. And she kind of said her goodbyes to me then, but a few days later she messaged me to tell me that she was so scared and in pain. And I mean, I understand pain better than some people, and I have been through what feels like a new dimension of pain. I've hurt myself before, but the pain from the misfiring nerve endings in my leg is just like a whole new experience. It's a whole new dimension of pain. So she was telling me how much she was in pain, and then she started calling me by my birth name. I can't even, it's not that I don't want people to know it, it's Christopher, right? But every time I sort of like, I talk about it, it doesn't like choke me up and make me feel bad. It's just, if anything, it just makes me feel guilty, because right at the end she got so confused and she was so in pain, she messaged me to say, ask me where I'd gone, why I'd abandoned her, and she called me by that name, and I can't even put all that in the same sentence because it absolutely kills me inside to think that that's what her last thoughts of us were before she passed away. So this person who was so downtrodden couldn't fight back because he was so used to using fists and fighting, and that it just didn't know how to fight back, and just basically this is something to do with my PTSD as well, how I got over my PTSD. So I shed that personality like a snake shedding a skin. I basically just put it to one side and said, right, that's that part of my life, that's me, and this is me. So yeah, at the time when I was seeing her, I'd already changed all my social media and everything over to Cole Thompson, but I'd not done anything official yet. I was just kind of trying it on, and I'd let my daughter actually pick that name because she liked the name. So so because I didn't want to alienate her, I said, "Well, you pick my new name then," and because it was kind of a quick decision to get out of that tight spot with the universities. So I let her pick my name, and because of that message from the woman I was seeing right at the end, I just felt like I had to shed that identity. It took away any doubt that I had, and I'm like, made a decision. I did it officially via DPOL, my driving license, everything says Cole Thompson now, right? So I'm called Cole Thompson now, and my ex-wife, because she's a serious manipulator, she'll say things to get under my skin, but she knows now that when she gets really angry, the stakes are so high. She has to raise the stakes so much. She has to say the most disgusting things to get a response out of me. So She called me things like a druggie because I had to take morphine for my leg, and called me a drug addict. And you know, I have been on prescribed medication for my leg for such a long time that I always worry about, you know, if I do have it amputated or if it comes off, how my body would react if I would have withdrawal symptoms. But I've actually been through this with my GP, and we've had, when the pain's been less, when the leg's been intact a lot more, we have actually wound back all the painkillers, all the morphine, and although it's not totally getting it out your system, I understand that. I have been really successful with it, and my doctor was confident that my body was still seeing it as a necessity to remove the pain and not taking it out of habit. So, you know, you don't really know something's an addiction until you try and give it up. So she called me a druggie and a bad father, which she knows. Even now, it kills her to admit it, but she can't say anything about the kind of father I am, because everything I am, everything that stopped me from self-deleting, is to do with my children. They are my number one priority. They're the reason why I train so much in different industries, and try and put myself, spread myself out to be more hireable, to anything to do with digital art. So I do that, right? She knows I do everything for my children. She knows I try to work so hard, and she calls me things like a jobless bum because she knows it kills me that I wasn't in full-time employment. Well, I'm not in full-time employment now, so she calls me a job. Sorry, my leg. So she calls me a jobless bum, and she knows the reason why I changed my name and everything that happened with the lady that I was seeing. So to get under my skin, and she knows how much it kills me, that name. She knows how much it kills me inside that name. So to get under my skin, when she really wants to sort of set me off, when she really wants to get my attention, she'll call me Christopher. But it's like waving a red rag at a bull and then, you know, slapping him in the balls. It really annoys me. And then Lainey and Ben dangled it in front of me. They're manipulators, same as my ex-wife, and then they dangle it in front of me in the exact same way as my ex-wife does, saying, "Oh, this is you. It reminds you of your previous identity." So I'm such a balanced. I'm the best balanced version of myself. I'm so balanced in terms of my dark side and my light side. But Lainey and Ben, they did that, and I know they had no idea what they were doing. They just saw something and dangled it in front of me because they thought it was something that they could use as a cheap shot. But that actually turned out to be hitting me in the face with a brick. They don't understand that I have got all this stuff, and I try to explain to them that I only release what's effective and what's necessary at the time. Okay, I'm not out to say things out of spite or because I hate them. Because I don't hate them. I don't even hate my ex-wife. I hate manipulation. I absolutely hate manipulation. And when even my ex-wife, I couldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. But when she's not manipulating, I can talk to her absolutely fine. And I can get on with her relatively well. You know, there's no love. She's like a total stranger to me, and I'm a total stranger to her, which is why she still likes to grab me by my old identity and try and sort of bust it over my head. But that's not me anymore. But the person who solves his problems with anger and rage and fights everyone, right? Feel free to provoke that person, because I am a completely different person now. But I'm not saying that side of me is gone. It's just under control. But I'll tell you now, I don't pretend to be a nice person. I don't pretend to love everyone despite the things that they say. If you talk shit about me, you better believe that I won't be stood there raging at you, but you better watch your back. Because I remember, I am the fiercest person to have fighting in your corner. Which, for debunkers, anyone sticking their neck out, right, risking these kind of attacks by fake channels, I have got so much respect for, because they don't deal with devious people like I do. They aren't monsters. I am a monster. I am a nasty person if you provoke that out of me, okay? But I can also be the nicest person, and I've got compassion for people. Lainey from Lainey and Ben were talking about her PTSD from having a bad birth, right? I've suffered from PTSD. I know that what that does. It is absolutely crippling, and I'm not talking about it makes you depressed. You will have things that will drag you back in time. Time travel is very much a thing for people with PTSD, because your body is ripped out of the situation and the reality you're in and thrown back into that time when you're under so much pressure and you're in fight or flight mode and your pulse were racing and you're sweating buckets, so much adrenaline coursing through your veins, right? She brought something back from when she was pregnant, from when she gave birth. She brought something back with her, and you could see it in her eyes, and I could see that. And so whatever it were, right, it was bad. So I related to her in the comments. For once, I wasn't criticising something they do, because they said this not in response to anyone attacking them, not in response to a debunking video. They just put this out there because there were the vloggers at the end of the day, so any sort of life events they'll put out there. But this wasn't for in defence of something or to deflect criticism. She just put this out there, and I could see someone really hurting. So I related to her, my experience and my PTSD and what worked for me. I had EMDR light therapy, which is like a flashing light in your eyes, and it kind of resets your brain. Because I used to have triggers, things like water, flushing toilet, I'd trigger it off. Sound of rushing water, because it make you feel like you're trapped, and water was rushing in. So it'd trigger off all them feelings of being trapped on board and locked into the nose of a nuclear submarine. So when I was on board that submarine and it crashed into near enough a sheer rock face, they locked that forward compartment, and I was in there because that was my station. And when they were shutting that hydraulic door, and it shut so slowly, it's so dramatic and slow, and I had to fight every instinct in my body to stay on that side of that door, because they need people there for damage control and shut valves and open valves and whatever, to fight fires. Not that you need to fight much fires, and all you could hear was just the roaring of water. What I thought at the time, what everyone thought at the time, was water rushing into the hull. It turned out to be a ballast tank that had tore, because it had smashed and ripped most of the nose off of the submarine, but it had just stopped shy of the steel bulkhead. And I had to go crawling down under all the pipework right to the point where the water met the steel. So, and I had my face against it, just kind of listening out for the creaks and groans and the water rushing. But it all just stopped, and you could hear that creaking noise, and I was just waiting for that wall to just explode in my face, but it never came. That was like the longest 8 minutes of my life, where it doesn't matter how well trained you are, how tough you are, or how good you think you are at handling yourself under pressure, right? When you're in a situation where there's nothing you can do, you're just waiting to see what the results are. See, it's like, it's so hard to explain, because it gives you every opportunity to think about it, and it drags it right out. So it's not like nearly being hit by a car or nearly dying from being shot. It's just a long, drawn out process, and it's like waiting to be hung or waiting to be shot. So I got PTSD from that, and that EMDR light therapy, the things like taps being turned on, flushing toilets, it used to set me off as if a bloody monster were coming out of the toilet. And then because of my injury to my leg, I used to have night terrors of being eaten alive, because it felt like something was chewing down on my leg. And I used to have night terrors. I used to like flick back covers and see rats crawling all over me, or maggots and flies. And once I whipped my covers back, and it was just a black, it felt like I were in a swimming pool, and all I could see, I must have seen it on a nature program or a film, but when you see the shark coming up, and you can just see before it reaches water, you can see shark's teeth, you can see its mouth wide open, and I could see that gripping round my leg, and it's so vivid and so real. But that's what PTSD does to you. It lets you know that you're in a safe environment, but then it drags you into something, another reality basically, and makes you fight for your life. It's awful. So I just wanted to relate to my experience and what worked for me, and let her know that, you know, it is a hard thing to get through PTSD, but you can get through it. And I know it is a lot of pressure on a relationship. Well, I know it is for other people. I personally, when I was suffering the worst from my PTSD, I wasn't in a relationship because my ex-wife had tricked me into moving house for her and her new boyfriend. And her new boyfriend were literally, so there was the first night I wasn't there, they were sleeping together, and then literally, I think it were a week later, he was literally waking up where I used to wake up a week before, like nothing had ever happened, like a replacement father. It turned out to be a total scumbag who started beating my ex-wife up, and then she used to like sort of drag me out like a little guard dog, because her ex fella and all his friends, they know what I used to do, they know the kind of person I am. So she'd sort of wave me around like a guard dog, or I'd go to court with her because he's a super violent guy, and you know, he's not, well, he's a violent guy, but he's a total coward. Yeah, but that's another story for another day. So yeah, that's why I hate having my birth name dangled in front of me like that, and Lainey and Ben did that. So that's where we are at, Lainey and Ben. That's where we're at now. And then you've just, in my opinion, just committed a criminal offence against me. You've just faked a fake email. You've dragged a real solicitor into your deception as well. All to attack a point about the Consumer Protection Act I haven't even raised. That's not why I'm talking about Consumer Protection Act. Alright? The reason why I'm talking about Consumer Protection Act is because, right, anyone who talks to ghosts or claims they're a medium, or, you know, sensitive or whatever, if they take money from people under that basis, right, and you cannot, I know you've argued that, oh yeah, people came for the ghost but stayed for the people, right, that's bullcrap, because I've seen messages from people that are absolutely fuming with you for faking this stuff when they've been paying into you, and they've been under impression that your ghosts are real. Okay, so don't even try that. I don't care. I don't care if 99% of your subs all came for the ghost and then stayed for the people. You have basically groomed them into believing that you are these amazingly nice people. But I know the real Lainey and Ben, the real nasty dark side that you don't like them people knowing. And because you've done all this to me, you've attacked me, and you know, you've used something very personal to me as a cheap shot, and because then you've stepped way over the line this time, I am going to show each and every single one of them all this. Okay? I've got to give them a chance to put it right, though, to prove that I'm not acting out of malice, that I'm not doing it just because I don't like them. So, Lainey and Ben, you've got 3 days to act on this. So you've got 3 days to distance yourself from this, because I am now going to show everybody my reasonings for why I think this is about me, why I think you're attacking me, and why I know that you've faked those emails. Right? So you've got 3 days to make a video confirming this. I did not send you any fake emails. I did not pretend to be a solicitor. Right? And if there's any manipulative language used in that video, or any sort of ambiguous wording used, or I catch you in your private subs chat commenting saying, well, we had to really say it because we were kind of forced, we had his hands tied legally, right? That's not the case. If you anything at all apart from Cole Thompson did not send us any fake emails pretending to be a solicitor, okay? You attacked my reputation very publicly. I am very publicly stringing out your dirty washing for everyone to see. Okay? And the next time you do it, it'll be 10 times worse. Because I want people to know that this isn't as far as it can go. This isn't as dark as I can get. You've got 3 days to create a video and say that Cole Thompson never sent you any fake emails, because you said that you know full well who's done this, right? And I'm going to give my IP address to the police. And I suspect, because it's a bog standard email that you've used to create that email, that the IP address shows that it was created at the same location as you. But in any case, it shows it wasn't created in my location, because I don't use any sort of barriers. I don't use VPNs to hide my identity. My digital footprint is an open book for any investigator or law enforcement to look into. So I can prove 100% that I could not have sent that email, right? For a start. And for a second, I've got about 20 companies that will roll their eyes at the mention of my name, because if I send anything legal to anyone, it comes on my stationery with my letterhead and my stamp, company logo, seal, whatever you want to call it, signature. All right? Why on earth would anybody... Right, it comes with my stationery, basically. But I'm going to, you know, and I can put the police in touch with as many people as necessary to prove that I've never acted in that way. However, I can also prove that you've acted in this way before, where you've claimed somebody's acting outside the law, or acting outside what's acceptable in order to deflect criticism. Because I can prove, in this video, I have 100% proof as well that you are faking ghosts. I have 100% proof that you are lying about manipulating your audience and lying to your audience. Okay? I have got all that in this video. This video is the only thing I need to prove anything to the police. So I'm going to leave that up to you. So you've got 3 days to make a video, because you can fully confirm that it was not me that sent you any sort of fake solicitor email. Alright? I have not been harassing you. I have been commenting on your videos. You doxed me by using very personal information as a cheap shot, proving to everyone that you've been digging into people's lives. You've been stalking people, basically. And I can prove that because it's not the first time you've done it, is it?
Ah, goodness, fishing line, anyone? This poor attempt to pull the wool over people's eyes. At least give us some production value, you... Lol. Oh my god! Oh my lord, someone actually went online and called me.
Just for the record, that's because you are one.
It's actually proper funny. But it's okay though, because he ended the comment with, lol. That's like a get out of jail free card. It's like, I mean what I'm saying. I mean what I'm saying to you guys. I don't like you. I think you're a pair of butts. Lol. Therefore, there's a bit of a joke to it. And he thinks that's going to work. But the thing is, about this guy, it was literally one click onto his profile to find out where he worked, who he was exactly, where he lived, and to find that he had a wife and 2 kids. That's pretty scary stuff. Because you just called me online and I've managed to find out all that stuff about you. Now, I'm not going to do anything with that information. I literally couldn't care. But at the same time, you probably should be a little bit more careful, because I might not do that. Someone else online might. Just something to bear in mind for future.
Can I just say though, you are by far the most unintimidating person I have ever come across. That's the sort of person you are. You dig into people's lives, the families, and then make vague, veiled threats about somebody else might do something. You send whoever you want. I don't break the law. I don't abuse the legal system, you know, to score points. You do. You break the law. You abuse the legal system. But you've got one chance to walk away from this. Immediately after making this video, someone came over to my channel asking if I was going to prove my credentials or if I was pretending to be a solicitor. And I think that was you. Personally, I think you do create fake names to wander around and say things because you're too scared to say them yourself. Right? And you were an idiot enough to link me directly to that video because you wanted to be sure that I was watching it. And you wanted me to be scared that, oh, I could get in trouble with the police or something. I know I've not committed a crime. I know I've done nothing wrong. I know I can fight any legal team because, from my perspective, you have committed a crime. You have acted maliciously. Alright? So, I don't care. Why would anyone fake an account and then send somebody a legal threat? And the irony in all this is that that is the only legal thing in this entire video. He's not actually... You've created this email, but he's not actually committed a criminal offence. He shares the same name with a solicitor, right? So what? Okay. But what the email that he's wrote looks to me like pre-action protocol, which is someone makes a video and calls you a thief. You basically send them, you comment and say, right, well, I'm not a thief, you've got no evidence, that's defamation of character, I want you to change it right now. And they refuse to do it. So what you'll do is you'll write them a letter saying, under whatever, you'll look at defamation of character law, and you'll copy and paste something into a letter and say, look, if you do not change the name of this, I'm going to take you to court, basically. And you send them that letter. And that's called pre-action protocol, and that's basically you proving that you're not acting out of malice. You're giving them a chance to repair the situation instead of abusing and wasting the court's time. So you're giving them a chance to fix the situation. So I needed to give it time. So if in the slightest chance that this Simon guy was real, because if I was sending somebody legal stuff, if they made a video saying that I had committed a criminal offence and faked being a solicitor, I would immediately contact them and tell them to change the name of that video. And that nobody's said anything. It's not being disturbed. So that is the biggest reason why I know this is fake. Not only that though, you dragged a real solicitor into this. What do you think that solicitor is going to do when he finds out that you basically used him and he's part of that malicious communication, the email that you've created, and you've made him a part of that criminal offence? I'm not saying that, you know, he's had any part in it, but you have directly linked him to your criminal offence because you thought it'd be a good idea to use him as a source of credibility. So you created this email, you've sent, you know, and you know, I don't doubt for a second that you hadn't rang up this solicitor and said, oh, we've received this email and he's pretending to be someone similar to you. But I don't think you realised that the IP address is hidden in bog standard Gmail accounts, right? So it doesn't take a cyber security team to crack that code. I'm going to call him and link him to this video to show him. So you can see actual evidence and motivation on your part why you would do something like this, and it'll all become clear. And I don't have to hire a solicitor. He will just quite happily take you to pieces, right? And he might very well find out as a consequence of this video, but that's the chance that you have to take now, unfortunately, because I'm not taking this video down. Like you said, you know who this person is, and you've been doing your research clearly from dangling my birth name in front of me, which is nowhere on the internet apart from Facebook deep in the comments, because people who I've known for 30 years or whatever, they sometimes still call it me in the comments. And I'm not an arsehole. I'm not just going to tell them, oh, my name is Cole, you've got to call me Cole now. You know, I've told people I've changed my name if they don't know me that well enough to know why and know why it matters to me. Then I'm not going to attack them for it, you know, because I'm not invested in their lives to know every little detail. So just let it go. But on Facebook is the only place that happens, deep in the comments. Alright, so it just proves that you've been fishing around. Right? And all it took was me provoking you. You have just physically proven that you've been going through all that stuff, all that personal information. It's doxing. Okay? Releasing anybody's personal information, and it doesn't matter if you got it from a comment, right? The fact is, you've got a platform and a community of 100,000 people plus, and you release that information, and it doesn't matter if someone else told it you. You know, you're pretty damn stupid for just taking a random piece of personal information and just firing it out into your comment section. But you did that. That's against YouTube's terms and conditions. Alright, it doesn't matter if you got that through another party or somebody else went deep diving in mine. It looks like you, basically, because you've done it before, and you know, you've actually said that you've done your research and all this. Do as much research as you want. I don't care. I've got nothing to hide at all. I've had some of the best legal teams in the UK for some of the biggest companies go through my online profile or my online digital footprint and comb through it with a bloody electron microscope, and the only thing that they got on me was when I told them that I had stopped cage fighting after my leg got bad when I worked for the NHS and I couldn't do it anymore. They said, well, that's a lie because you've had 3 fights according to this. So they found out that I'd had 3 fights after I'd said I'd stop fighting, right? Which was news to me, because I actually stopped fighting when I said I stopped fighting. And when it was finally revealed, this cage fighter was actually a very tall black Caribbean fella. Okay, common name. My birth name and my surname. It was a common name. So they didn't do the research, and it backfired on them, because in court it looked like they were desperately grasping at straws, because they thought it was some epic bloody gotcha moment, and they'd sort of briefed the solicitor, but they'd not they briefed my solicitor about it and my barrister, but they'd not actually gone through it all. They just said that, and then my sister came back to me and says, have you been fighting after you said you... And I'm like, no, not in a million years. So they just kind of just ignored it, because I said regardless of what they've got, it doesn't prove that I had a fight, because I haven't. You know, I'm not lying about this. I don't have to defend it. So whatever they've got, you know, it's irrelevant really. But it turned out to be